Hey folks, I'm glad you're here. My name is Chris, and this is the Sons of Sever YouTube channel where there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. Today I'm talking about a shoe from a company called Notorious Lift. This is the Radix. I want to talk about a couple things when it comes to this shoe here in the intro. I'm going to start with talking about how it's kind of engineered backwards compared to other barefoot shoes. Then we're going to get into the specs of the shoe. We'll talk about my likes, then my dislikes, and I'll give you my final opinion of the Notorious Lift Radix. As always, there are timestamps down in the description so that you can skip around to different parts of the video. So talking about how this shoe is reverse engineered compared to other barefoot shoes, I'll use the example of the Splay Freestyle, a shoe that I absolutely love for lifting weights. Why? Because it has a very wide toe box, it's zero drop, and it has a very thin 5mm outsole, which keeps you close to the ground and makes the shoe very nice and flexible. Now the thing about that shoe was it was built to be a casual barefoot shoe, but because of the way they made it with those barefoot shoe qualities, that made it a good lifting shoe. The Radix was made in the opposite direction. This was made to be an optimal lifting shoe, like a deadlift slipper, which is all they made before they made this shoe. A deadlift slipper is basically a sock with an outsole attached and then some Velcro straps. So that is basically a barefoot shoe for the most part, but it's made to be very thin, get you really close to the ground, allow your feet to splay out and grab the floor as you're deadlifting tons and tons of weight off of the ground. Now, in order to get this shoe to that optimal place, they had to add in barefoot shoe qualities. That's why I'm saying that it's been engineered reverse to most other barefoot shoes that start with barefoot qualities and then make their way into the sports arena. So let's talk about the different specs that they have on the website for this thing that make it a really good lifting and barefoot shoe. Quoting from the website, they say it is 20% thinner than the leading barefoot shoe. I don't know what shoe they are referencing for that, but it is very thin. 25% lighter than the average powerlifting shoe. That's impressive in its own space. It's got some stability added in with this TPU cage that they have built around it. It also mentions the Novus Grip Tech rubber outsole, which we'll talk about in a little bit more depth in a moment. And then finally getting into the barefoot shoe qualities, it lists a wide toe box, zero drop, and a ridiculously flexible outsole and just overall flexible shoe. The way that it gets to that flexibility is going to come in the form of the outsole, and the way that it's built, we have a 2mm outsole with 1.3mm lugs. The website quotes 3.3mm overall. It does not mention the insole that's in here, which I think is probably about a millimeter. So I think we're looking at 4.3mm overall. That is going to be super optimal for lifting, and it's going to be awesome for anybody who wants to have lots of ground feel. Now, to make sure I don't alienate my barefoot shoe people, I want to mention that I'm definitely going to talk about this from a lifting standpoint. I love lifting weights. I love trying to lift as heavy weights as possible, and this has been great for that. But I also want to mention how this acts as just a barefoot shoe, because at the end of the day, that is what it is. With the intro and the specs of the Radix out of the way, let's get into my likes of this shoe. The first thing I want to talk about is the thinness and the flexibility just of the shoe overall and of the sole specifically. So when it comes to flexibility, that's going to be important because it allows your foot to do what it's supposed to do. When a sole is too thick or too rigid, that stops your feet from bending and twisting, and that ultimately is going to cushion them against activity and make it so that those muscles don't work as much. Overall, you're going to get weaker over time and your feet are not going to be happy. This thing bends and twists with your feet, I think, optimally, so you're not going to have any issues there when it comes to that. The thinness also allows for fantastic ground feel. I love this as just a walking shoe. If I really want to connect with the ground while I go walking, whether by myself, with my family, or with pets, whatever, I love to wear this shoe because the grip is fantastic, so I'm very sure-footed. We'll talk about that in a second, but also I just feel like I'm so connected with what is beneath me. Moving on to that grip, the Novus Grip Tech technology that they have on the bottom here is really nice. So not only do we have sections here that are awesome when the shoe bends, but we also have those zigzags. And I don't know if it's the zigzags specifically, the pattern, or if it's the kind of rubber that they use. It's probably a mixture of the two, but these things are so dang grippy. I think these are probably one of the grippiest pairs of shoes that I own, which gives me a lot of peace of mind in a lot of different situations. Specifically, when I am doing heavy movements in the gym, a reoccurring nightmare that I have is going for a super heavy squat, and as I go down, my feet spread out, and I do the splits and it kills me or something like that. But also, whenever you're doing reverse lunges, you really want to make sure that if you're underweight, when your foot plants, your foot doesn't slide backwards. You want it to land firmly, you go down and you come back up and forward. So this is great for movements like that, but then it's going to be good for all day, everyday life. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend this as like a restaurant shoe. I know that those are kinds of situations where you want to have something really, really grippy. If you need an ultra grippy shoe, this guy would do a great job for you. The last like I want to talk about lends itself well to the versatility of the shoe overall, and that is the way that it looks. I think it's actually a pretty good looking shoe. So the way that I would implement the use of the shoe, the way that I have implemented the use of this shoe, is heavy lifting in the morning. Obviously, it's going to be fantastic for that. I could totally wear it to work as my delivery job shoe because it's black. It's not going to get super dirty, but it's a little thin for me on that. We'll get into that with my dislikes, but could totally wear it to work and be confident with it with the grip. But then going on walks with the family, going out in the great outdoors and wanting to connect with the ground, you could then take this thing out. It's not going to look too weird. Whereas the deadlift slippers that Notorious Lift makes wouldn't necessarily be my go-to walking shoes. They would probably be great for it because they are also thin, flexible, and basically barefoot shoes. But I would prefer this because it's a good-looking lace-up, almost casual looking shoe. I've got more likes of this shoe, but those are the main ones. Now, I have mentioned a little bit in my likes that there are some drawbacks to all the amazing features of this shoe, so we're gonna get into those. Let's get into my dislikes, but first, I want to talk about some affiliates. Do you want to be as barefoot as possible, but still have something protecting your feet from foreign objects on the ground? Vibram 5 Fingers are the original barefoot shoe, and in our experience, they are the king of ground feel, flexibility, and minimalism when it comes to barefoot shoes. We've featured a lot of 5 Fingers on our channel, with many more to come. If you're interested in getting a pair of the most barefoot shoes on the market, go check out our reviews of 5 Fingers at the playlist card up in the corner, and check out our link for Vibram down in the description. Are you looking to take your barefoot shoe experience to another level? Then you're going to need a solid pair of toe socks that lets you take advantage of all that toe box. We love Creeper's Toe Socks, a sock that beat out 6 other toe sock brands in a comparison video we did that you can see through the card up in the corner. Whether it's cold or hot, whether you're hiking, running, or lounging, Creeper's Toe Socks will ensure that your feet stay comfy, dry, and healthy. If you're interested in checking out Creepers, head down to the link in the description and use our discount code to save yourself 15% off at checkout. Getting into my dislikes of the Radix, I only have 2, and they kind of go hand in hand. So the first one is actually a like that I mentioned, and it's the thinnest. Now the reason why it's in the likes and the dislikes is because that in the likes, that thinness is great for what this shoe is purpose built for. In the dislikes, that thinness holds this shoe back from being versatile. I mentioned in my likes that I wouldn't wear this to work because the ground that I find myself traveling over is often unpredictable and varied, and I wouldn't want to put my feet in a dangerous situation like that with such a ridiculously thin sole. Transitioning that thinness into my other dislike is going to be durability concerns. I haven't experienced any durability issues with this, but I have mostly used it for the things that it's supposed to be used for. So lifting weights and a little bit of casual walking. I did do a little bit of running in this, 3 miles here, 3 miles there, just so I could give a full honest review of how this shoe performs in sports situations overall. Wouldn't run in it. Not that you can't adapt to the thinness of the sole, you totally can. There are other shoes that are close to as thin as this one that we run in pretty consistently and we're just fine. But that durability concern, I think if this shoe experienced too much friction consistently, I could probably wear through the sole pretty quickly. And I may have Notorious Lift send me a second pair just so I can see how long it takes for me to make them fail. Because I think if I wore them to work and I wore them running for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe just a month total, I could probably get through this thin sole. Now, as far as the movements that I have been using it for, deadlifts, very stationary, no friction. You're anchoring into the ground, so the grip is definitely doing its job, but it's not rubbing against the ground. Same thing with squats, same thing with your leg drive and bench press if you're bench pressing correctly. The thing that this probably gets the most friction from in my lifting is going to be those reverse lunges, and I don't think those are crazy enough with the friction to wear through this sole over time. And then again, a little bit of casual walking for this shoe. That's probably what will most likely lead to the failure of this shoe, but I think it will be a slow failure over a pretty long period of time. That brings me to my final opinion of the Notorious Lift Radix. Would I recommend this or not? Yes, but it depends on what you're getting it for. Can I recommend it to the person who's just looking for a very minimal barefoot shoe? Absolutely. 4.3 millimeter stack height. You're not going to find too many other barefoot shoes that are more minimal than that. But take those durability concerns I mentioned in the dislikes and really consider that. If you're looking for a solid lifting barefoot shoe, absolutely. This is hard to beat, especially at the price point. It comes in at $99, which is significantly outpacing the competition. One of the other shoes in this category that I can think of is the Teardrop Zero, which we will be featuring on this channel as well. And that thing's $150. So you're saving 50 bucks by going with the Radix. Now, this is, again, way thinner than the Drop Zero. So those durability concerns are going to be there, but it all comes down to what are you using this for. If you're trying to get a really solid barefoot shoe for lifting weights specifically, maybe it just lives in your gym or your gym bag and only comes out when you're at the gym. And then for a little bit of casual walking, this thing is going to be a really solid option for you. Folks, if you liked this video, we would appreciate if you would like, subscribe, and comment. All those things really help us out here on YouTube. If you are interested in checking out our affiliates, head down to the links in the description. If we have any discount codes, those will be featured with the links. If you want exclusive behind-the-scenes content from us, or you want to try to help support the channel financially, head over to our Patreon page and subscribe. It's only $1 a month, and you will get in-depth behind-the-scenes looks at all of the products that we are working with. Typically, the first place where I post content about the products we're working with is Instagram in the form of unboxing videos. So if you're interested in those, head over to the link in our description that'll take you to our Instagram and follow along with us there. We're also very, very active on Strava. It's probably the social media platform we are most active on, which is a platform where you can track all of your activity, whether it's running, trail running, hiking, paddleboarding, lifting weights. We track all that stuff as we're doing it on Strava. We also feature the gear that we're using as we're doing those activities, so you get kind of these mini reviews of the gear that we're working with. We're glad you're here. We appreciate your view, and as always, we will catch you in the mountains.